Today we're going to give some examples of how to achieve progressive overload. A lot of people think it's simply adding more weight to the bar every week, which is great, and it's the first example that we will talk about, but it's not sustainable. So we'll give a couple other examples of different ways to adjust your training to achieve progressive overload. So as I said, the first one is manipulation of intensity, or the load on the bar. So let's say your current 1 rep max on bench press is 325 pounds. The next week you go for a PR, and would you look at that, you hit 330. You're only adding 2.5 pound plates to either side of the barbell, but small changes over time add up. Now let's say you don't want to change the weight that you're lifting. The next example is manipulating volume through changing your rep scheme. So let's say you can do 295 for sets of 3, and the next week you don't want to change the weight, but you can add 1 more rep. So 295 for a set of 4. Small changes over time. Now let's say you don't want to change the load or the rep scheme. You can still adjust volume through manipulating the sets that you're doing. So let's say you're still doing 295 for your new sets of 4, but you're only doing that for 3 sets. The next week, rather than adjusting the load or the reps, you just add an extra set and you do it for 4 sets. Still, very small changes over time, they add up. Seeing a theme here. The next thing you can do is adjust the difficulty of the lift itself. So let's say that 330 pounds you maxed out on before was a touch and go bench press, and you keep that same load, but now you do it paused, which is much more difficult, introducing a new stimulus and forcing your body to adapt and become bigger and or stronger. Now the final example that I will give is manipulation of rest periods. So let's say today, between every set of your bench press, you take a 2-minute break. And the next week, rather than resting for a full 120 seconds, you only rest for 90 seconds. So if you look through this chart, you'll see that there's one reoccurring theme. And I guess the big takeaway here is don't wait for big benchmarks, no pun intended, to celebrate. You don't have to wait until you can bench 315 to say, hell yeah, I made some gains. If you're adding 5 pounds to the bar, 1 extra rep, 1 extra set, 1 tweak to make it a little bit more difficult, resting for 1/2 of a minute less, over time that adds up and that will achieve progressive overload and help you reach your goals. Fact. Now, those are my examples. I'm sure there's other ones out there. However you like to adjust your training to achieve progressive overload, leave that in the comments below and stand strong.